So carousels get 4 times more reach, videos crashed 35%, and the simple image you're ignoring, it might be your best bet. Here's the complete breakdown of every LinkedIn format and exactly when to use each one in 2026. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which format to use for every type of content that you create, not just what performs best, but what performs best for you, based on your goals and based on your time. Because here's the thing. Most creators pick formats randomly. They see someone's carousel go viral and think, I need to make carousels. They see a meme and think, I need to make a meme. But format selection isn't about copying, it's about strategy, just like everything else. So let's break it down format by format. So first, let's look at what happened this year, because as we all know, LinkedIn rebalanced the algorithm with their Brew 360 thingy. And I'm going to show you the current multipliers compared to what they were before all these big changes. If you look at this, you can see big changes with polls, with carousels, text and image. Video, as you might already know, has pretty much crashed, right? That was the big thing going from 2024 to 2025, and video was all the rage. And then they basically took it away again completely. But it's not a format that you should ignore, but you should know when and how to use it. We'll get to that later. Also, you can see how poll gets quite a good reach, but way less engagement these days. We'll also dive into this. So lots of up and downs. The big stables, carousels, text and image are still there. Video went from king to commoner, and polls are in a weird place. We'll get to all of this. And really, I hope you can already see a lesson here. There's stuff that works better for reach, and then there's stuff that works better for engagement, which already can give you an indication on when to use each one. Right? But let's look through them in more detail. So let's start with what I consider the most underrated format, because it might be boring just because it's so easy, but it is the best bang for your buck. Text and image. Look at this. Basically, 65% of all posts are text and image for that reason. We got a slight increase in reach. Obviously, your mileage with this increase may vary quite a bit, but in general, they are not getting a penalty or anything. Engagement, you should have definitely noticed this, right? So while reach went down, the engagement rate went significantly up on text and image posts, basically on pretty much all posts, but text and image very noticeable. And the big thing for me is that they only take like 5 minutes to create, right? A carousel might take you, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, a video even longer, like you need to record it. Text and image, write a post, attach a relevant image, done. When it comes to best practices, there's a few things that are very easy to do and that just ensure that your images will perform a bit better. Vertical will, you just get more space in the feed. If you have a horizontal picture, you might only get a small slot. If you get a vertical picture, you just take up more real estate in the feed, which, gives it a boost just because of that. 32%. Use personal photos, or use an AI to create personal photos of you, with you, a character. We have that in content. Because nobody wants to see stock images, people want to see you. That's what the platform is about. It makes a ton of sense. Try selfie style stuff to be really authentic, but I would also recommend to have like a set of, 20, 30 professional photos of you that you could just, iterate through and reuse for different post types. If you want to get a bit more, you can add a few pictures. That gives you another little boost, especially if you tell a little story. Great for personal posts. It's not really needed though. Just when you actually report something and the amount of pictures actually makes sense, then it's very good. And again, the formula for this is really, really simple. Just write your post, attach an image of yourself. It can be related to the post. If your facial expression kind of like matches the post's intent, that's basically all you need, right? It can be a snapshot on your holidays. It can be a professional picture of you sitting in an office, but really it's so versatile. You can use it for personal stories, you can use it for quick tips, for opinions, for day-to-day content. Just get a set of good images and practice that. And if you don't want to do anything else, just stick with it and it will be a super cool baseline for what you're doing. Now, carousels is the one that everybody's been obsessing over, and for good reason. They get the biggest multiplier in reach, they get the highest engagement rates, they get the most shares, so all of the good stuff that the algorithm really, really loves. They tend to have a very long lifespan as well, up to a week, up to 2 weeks even sometimes, compared to 1 to 5 days for a text and image post. And the interesting thing is, it might look different in your feed, but only 10% of people that post have ever used a slideshow. It's so crazy, but it makes sense because they are hard to create, unless you use our AI generator. We'll get to that later. But here's what changed for carousels in 2025. The ideal length dropped from around 12, 13 slides to 6 to 9 slides, because people, even though only 10% use them, people tend to get carousel fatigue. And if the consumption, if the click-through drops below 35%, you get a visibility penalty. So let's say you have 7, 8, 9 slides. You want people to click through 3 or 4 of them at least. And the way to do this is by telling a story that draws people in and makes them want to read more. And it seems more text-oriented carousels actually work better than image-oriented carousels for that reason, because it's easier to tell a story in short text snapshots compared to an image. It's also easier to create, to be honest. The perfect carousel formula is 6 to 9 slides maximum. Don't do 20 slide novels. Never fucking just upload a white paper like that. That is a complete waste. Keep the captions below 100 characters per slide. Keep it catchy, have a good title, a good hook, just like your post, to draw people in. Use a very simple language that makes it super easy for people to consume it. Add a call to action for the slide at the end. Share, follow, comment, that good stuff. And try to include your face, like the little avatar, somewhere in your slideshow as well. It just adds the authority element to it, which is very, very helpful. And yeah, try to tell a story. So previously it was like, do your tips, the 10 best tips, and then you have 1 slide per tip. They still work, they're still cool, but if you manage to wrap that in a story, you draw people in much more and you make it a lot easier for them to just, click through and to get that click-through rate on your slideshow. And stories, like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Have a good hook, have a before, have a problem, have a solution, have a how-to, have a result, and end with a call to action. This is what we build Content-In's Carousel Designer around. It will, automatically take your post as an input and then create this slideshow story from that in a couple of seconds, really. Next up, we have the infographics, and I like to think of them as the authority builder. They also get like the silver medal in terms of reach and engagement, for good reason, right? They are, again, fairly hard to create, but they give you a 3 times reach boost, 6 times save rate, 2.5 times higher comment quality, and a very good authority boost. So not quite as good as carousels, but like really, really high up there as well. The cool thing about them is the save rate, for sure. Think of it this way. If somebody says, I want to reference that later, that's authority in action, really. So infographics obviously shine for data visualization, industry analysis, complex concepts made simple, charts showing trends or comparison. Think of it as thought leadership backed by numbers. And that's just a magic combination, because numbers work, thought leaderships is what we want to build. Really, really cool concept. Don't add any pictures. Like maybe have your little avatar as the authority builder, but don't, add a selfie or anything to it. Save that for your personal content. If you want to decide between infographics and carousel, I think of it this way. Carousels tell stories and infographics prove points. So if you're walking somebody through a process, use a carousel. If you're making a powerful data-backed claim, use an infographic. We recently launched an infographic generator, AI-backed of course, in Continent, and it really, really gets you there quite fast. We use Nano Banana Pro for it. Fairly expensive, but pretty good. It's actually the first time that this is possible with AI thanks to the new Gemini image model. So what happened to videos then, right? Video used to be the hype a year ago, and it basically died. Definitely their massive reach multiplier basically didn't work for most people ever. Also, engagement is way down and it's just not as prominent on the platform anymore. But here's the thing. Video is still a very, very good format for authenticity. Because when people see you speak like this, they kind of like, we're wired to that as humans. And it's much easier to build that personal relationship and that personal impression through videos. Couple of things. If you do a video, again, make it vertical, so you take up more real estate. Keep it fairly short, 60 minutes, a maximum of 90 minutes. And again, like make sure to draw people in the beginning. So you have like a 3-second hook, but again, make sure people see 30% of your video. If they drop out earlier, it doesn't get any reach. It's simple as that. So open with a punchline. Make sure you have captions because most people watch videos on mute, so they rather read what you're saying than listening to it. But keep it short, keep it to the point. Add a call to action in the video itself at the end. People tend to not read the LinkedIn post that's attached to the video at all. So no need to spend much time on it. Just make sure you have a good hook because that's what you see in the preview really. And if you're wondering when to use a video, it's great for personal storytelling. It can be good for tutorials and how-tos, even though I think, infographics or especially carousels are better for this, but they're really good at trust building. Think of this as middle of the funnel or bottom of the funnel content. Personal content. Don't do them for complex, in-depth topics, and don't do low energy talking head monologues. To be honest, I'll cut this video in shorts, but I think it's not the best input for shorts. We'll see how they perform. Now, polls are a weird one. They used to be a favorite for reach and engagement, and reach is actually up. They tend to stay up a lot longer and they definitely get more impressions than your usual posts. But what we can see in our data is that engagement went significantly down. I think people just don't like to interact with them as much anymore. So, LinkedIn likes to show them, but people don't engage that much anymore. It needs to be a very controversial topic. You need to make it as easy as possible for people to hit that button. Like, don't think, just hit a button. Yes, no. Short answers. I don't think it's dead. It might have been overused a little bit to the point where people just scroll right past it, which also is because you don't really attach a media to it that much. So it's just less obvious in the colorful feed. If you do one, they still have a place, right? If you do one, make them run for 7 days for best performance. Like, you can skip the 1-day polls altogether. They get the 70% engagement and reach collapse. So just don't do that. Most of your votes will come in the first, 3 to 4 days anyways. But let's, give it a good time span and they will be all right. Couple of tips for polls. If you do them, do 3 options only. Keep it simple. Don't do an it depends or other. Don't try to make people comment. It doesn't, you can try, but it doesn't seem to work that well. Maybe a good hack is to have poll insights in comments. So you can update with your own comments on the polls and give people like an idea of, the results already, or in-depth commentary on the different options and what you think about this. And, just don't repeat the same polls over and over. It's usually not worth it. So I think the real shift here is that polls used to be good for reach farming, but I think these days they're better strategically used for insight gathering. So use it to research your audience, use it to qualify leads, test ideas. When you genuinely want to know something, I think polls still work well and tend to farm good intel, really. What kind of stopped working is when you're fishing for engagement, people usually can tell and they will just scroll right past it. This last one is actually very interesting, also because I only recently started to do them, and that's LinkedIn articles. And they kind of have a bit of a renaissance, I guess. You get a pretty good reach multiplier. Newsletter subscribers went up quite significantly. If you already have a newsletter, just try repurposing it on LinkedIn as articles or as a LinkedIn newsletter. It's quite a good way to show up more often in your followers' feed. I found this number. I'm, to be honest, not sure how accurate it is, but if there's really only 184,000 newsletters on LinkedIn, that's super underused. So might be worth dipping your toes into that, especially if you have the content already. If you don't already have weekly content generation set up for blog posts or newsletters anyways, I probably wouldn't touch it. Here's a couple of best practices for that. Newsletter articles, I just use them interchangeably. The best cadence apparently is bi-weekly. I have to test this myself. Monthly, definitely too long. Weekly gets a little bit less reach. And inconsistency, just like with posting, is the worst. So if you start venturing into that, maybe start with a strategy to do it bi-weekly at least and keep that up for a long time. In terms of content, what seems to work well is recap newsletters. So summaries, highlights, that kind of stuff. Topic newsletters as well, or industry newsletters. And I think it really depends on what you are doing and what your ICP reacts with. So for me, recap and topic is cool. Industry, not so much. But if you are, in automotive or in legal, industry newsletters are a great way to position you as an authority. Make your titles 7 to 11 words long and try to add a 3-line pre-header summary, as this is showing up in the suggested for you box. So that's quite a nice hack to make sure the first 3 lines kind of wrap up and tell what this is all about. What's nice about articles is that you can usually reuse them into at least 2 snackable posts. You always do 1 post when you publish the article, so that would be 1, and then you can reshare it maybe a week later or something with another post about it. I wouldn't use hard call to actions at the end, but maybe a nudge. I try to put links to my YouTube videos or to my blog posts into it. Not really sure how well that works yet, to be honest. And in a way, subscribers are your own audience within LinkedIn. So you get a very good control over this. You still don't own it because it's still on LinkedIn, right? But you have a good lever on the reach and who sees that stuff with newsletter subscribers. And, the longer you publish, the more momentum compounds. And this is a long game for authority building, really. Now let's pull it all together, okay? Add content in, we use the gap format, right? So growth, authority, and personal content. And these are the pillars of building a personal brand on LinkedIn. And I think it's important to know which formats work for which category. So carousels, great for authority and great for growth. Infographics, perfect for authority. Text+Image, cool for personal, cool for growth. Video, personal and authority. Polls, growth-ish, but it kind of lost the edge there. So more for insight generation at this point. Newsletters, again, great for authority. You might notice that there isn't a pure growth format anymore. And that's because LinkedIn capped your reach and capped virality on pretty much all of these. But there's still like stuff that is better for it, right? And LinkedIn kind of rewards you for mixing content up a little bit. But here's what I would recommend. Focus on 1 or 2 core formats that you do consistently, because we all know consistency is rewarded. And then try to mix it up once per week, once every 2 weeks, with one different format here and there. And you will notice that that post usually gets a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a boost, just because it's new. If you post, for example, your first article, it will be noticeably different. And you will noticeably see a different audience actually engaging with it. And try to think of it this way. If your primary goal is growth, do text and image and carousels as your 2 primary formats. If your primary goal is authority, do carousels and maybe infographics. If your primary goal is personal, text and image and video. And really think of it like that's your 1 or 2 primary formats, and then switch it up with supporting formats for the sweet spot, right? In general, most of your content should be authority oriented. The smallest part, personal, like 1 post per week, absolutely enough. 2 posts authority, 1 post growth. Or 3 authority, 1 personal, 2 for growth. That's usually like a pretty good golden mix. The lifespan factor is actually quite interesting. Carousels tend to, perform the longest, followed by videos, followed by image posts. Polls, take that number with a grain of salt. Obviously, it depends on how long you set their lifespan, but you will get the peak in the first 48 hours for sure, no matter how long you set them. And text-only posts just tend to vanish the quickest. Still, they're the easiest to produce, so if you have something quick to say, it might just be what you need. The interesting thing is that really the half-life is longer now than it used to be before. And you might see this, that you still get engagement on old posts now pretty regularly. A year ago, like every new post would override your previous post pretty much completely. That's not the case anymore. Let me just very quickly show you how content makes your life easier with all these media formats. Basically, you have a ton of options to create great stuff quickly. We have the classic quote card image. We have AI image generation with me in the picture, which basically takes your avatar and then you can describe in a quick prompt on how you want this to look. I don't know, me as Superman flying through space holding a sign. This was AI generated and it will come out nice and neat. I love this feature personally. We have the AI carousel generator that will instantly create this 7-8 slide sweet spot carousel for you, telling a story based on your post. We have the new infographic one, which is really, really cool. You can see one example here. And we have GIFs, which is, great for finding memes and stuff. You can attach a poll very quickly. You can attach an article that's a link outside to a blog post or something, usually a format that I don't recommend, but we still have it because we can. And you also have your library. This is where I keep my professional pictures or all the media that I've shared before ready to be reused. This is a great example of an AI generated picture of me, for example. Same like this, AI generated. This is usually my input picture that I use. It's very easy, it's very straightforward, and it makes it so much easier for me to create all this content in, half an hour or something. So overall, let me leave you with this hierarchy. For reach, carousels over infographics, over text and image, over video. For minimum effort, for maximum impact, think text and image over everything else, really. For authority, carousels over infographics, over newsletters. For connection, video and text and image personal posts. Pick your 1 to 2 core formats that you think support your strategy best and that are the most easy for you to keep up consistently. The algorithm, once some sort of format discipline because it makes it easier for it to learn, but it also rewards you if you mix it up. So, every week, every 2 weeks, spice it up with a video if you don't normally use it, for example. Easy challenge for you this week. Take your best performing posts from, 3 months ago, turn it into a carousel and post it and track the difference. Link to Content.in's 14-day free trial in the description. Now is a good time to start using it if you really want to rock LinkedIn in 2026. We might even have a little sale coming up to make it easier for you to start into 2026. See you soon.